dairy, and cattle raising. You can see this in this slide, compared to other plant-based milk. To create a liter of plant-based milk, we need around 600 liters of water to literally just produce 1 liter. And then a liter of dairy creates 2 to 5 times more carbon footprint, as you can see here, compared to plant-based milk. So the blue one is the land, and the light blue one is the global gas emissions. So in terms of the problem, it is a problem. So you research the problem. But the question now is, what makes plant-based milk the solution? So we also validate it. It's like, you know, if you have problems finding friends, it doesn't mean like social media app, or like, you know how the Tinder has a dating app but also has a friends app. It doesn't mean like the friends app is going to be the solution, you know, like we see running clubs as potential solution. Everyone may face the same problem but may not find the same solution for it. So we researched it as well. I researched it as well. Why plant-based milk? Better for environment, better for everything, but also we're lactose intolerant. So that's crazy. And second, 99% of dairy in the Philippines is imported, but we're the #1 producers of, the second, third producers of coconut in the world. So that was the trajectory. Always validate these things before jumping to solutions. And then there's a health problem. When I started validating it, I was like, okay, you know, plant-based milk is growing. Fun fact, 30% of people aged 16 to 24 in the UK have stopped drinking dairy and started consuming plant-based milk. So we see that this is a solution. But another solution is just stopping dairy entirely. That's another solution. But then again, in the Philippines, it's not really a big thing, because on a study that we conduct, that the DOSD FNRI director conducted among 12,000 participants, 76 to 97% of Filipino children are calcium deficient. Here, it's 92 to 94 because they're only taking the data from lower economic status, folks from lower economic status. But among those 12,000, it's 72 to 96. So there's a lot of this, like, what if this is the problem? Will this be the solution? The #1 thing to do is always look at the solution and never jump to the, look at the problem and never jump to the solution. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone knows this. It's like child's play for startup. But when I started realizing that plant-based milk may be the future, also the Philippines doesn't have it anyway, I took the time and my passion, I love cooking as well, to research how to actually create plant-based milk. So 2 years ago, what year was this? December 2021, I was able to successfully create a plant-based milk, a fortified coconut milk that has the same calcium, iodine, vitamin D, B2, B12 as dairy milk. So when I conceptualized the product, I was like, you know, this is the validation also informed me here. Why do people really consume dairy? A lot of it is the nutritional content, aside from like the leisure of it, like the taste. So we made sure that the alternative is like an alternative that's good for you. It's the same sugar content, same protein content, same fat content. Then yeah, it's good for coffee as well. When we had the product, initially Quan and I flew to the Philippines again, March 2022. And the next step on the validation route for us was, well, let's have people actually try this product. Like, is this actually like what people would want? Is this a good solution? And also we're like kind of daring. So I just like cold message Anthony Ongian, which is the country manager of BCG Philippines. I'm like, hey, we have this product, we have this solution, a problem we want to solve. Do you want to try our product? I was like, cold message on LinkedIn. And he was like, yeah, come over to the office. I was like, wow, okay, well, I'll be there. This is also like the peak-ish of the pandemic, so no one was really doing a lot of things. When I was doing this, there was only like Amanda from Backscoop who I was seeing, and Avion, of course, who I was seeing like doing startups within our age range. Here on the left, you can see like we flew to the Philippines for a week and we had like 4 hours of a day sleep. So we were like, this is like a 3 a.m. We were testing all the samples, we were blind tasting everything. Anthony Ongion also blind tasted it. Um, and it was a heavy week, but it was so fun. You know, we met so much people. And then we realized it was a thing. But of course, the first trial will likely not gonna be the best trial. So we had to redo it. And then we learned the hard way how FDA works, how everything works. And so we had to redo it, but this time with better knowledge on how things work. Here I am at, I don't know, probably
Talaga ba?
um, in the morning because I was based in London. I only moved to Manila September 2023. Um, and
Some
then
of this year's graduates.
I don't know if you can hear this. Can anyone give me a heads up if anyone can hear this?
Some of this year's graduates were also recognised in the KBS Student Awards.
Can you hear
Then
it?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Cool, cool. So before I moved to the Philippines, I decided to just graduate, just finish my education. I was thinking of stopping like last year, but I was like, you know what? You have another year anyway. So
Richard, who has developed behavioural nudges to help ensure
this
our
was the
business school
opening
colleagues
ceremony of
switch off
her
lights and IT
graduation.
when not in use. Navia Sethi, who has been a phenomenally active president of KCL Women in Business Society, and Samuel Tecuala, who masterminded a domestically produced plant-based milk for the Philippines, which helped to reduce the carbon footprint of the country's milk consumption. This is but a small snapshot of how so many of you go above and beyond your
They
studies to
basically
make a
butchered my
difference.
name, to be fair.
Whatever you choose to
Sucks.
do, let me
But
thank
anyway,
you and applaud you.
part of my journey was like so I was doing things, but part of the journey sometimes surprises you or at least me in terms of how these things happen. I was sitting in the crowd with no knowledge that they did, like they would mention me in the opening ceremony. And this was like a big university, like it was like 1,000, 2,000 people. Anyway, this was like one of the victories in the journey. And then last year we were recognized by the Philippine Startup Week as top 100 startups in the Philippines. So last year was when we started working with Nadine Lustre and Christoph Barrio. So the story behind that was they were as obsessed with the dairy problem as we were. When we met, we were like, whoa, there's like two people who's as obsessed with us with this problem. Like, and at this point, we were like, honestly, let's just do this together. So we ended up just doing it together. And we onboarded both of them as co-founders. Um, and basically the rest is now. Like now is like we're preparing for the launch, doing a lot of fundraising. Um, but yeah, it's been good so far. I think the number one thing that made everything work was when I was doing this, I tried to eliminate as much bias as I can. I can never have a yes man attitude. If someone tells me, like, if I ask someone their opinion, don't gauge it in a way that they give an objective opinion. An example of this would be there's this book called uh The Mom Test. It's a book called The Mom Test, a very important book. I think the two books that I really liked doing startup or doing my journey was the mom test talks about the best way for you to ask questions to get objective result. The reason why it's called the mom test is because your mom will be the most biased person to when answering you. So when you ask them, hey, do you think it's a good idea? They would always say yes, unless you have like a frank mom who's like so down to earth. And then there's the lean startup. Oh my God, I sound so basic. How you can do your startup as lean as you can. But for the sake of validation, let me expand on the mom test and teaching yourself the skills of asking the right question to get the right answer and eliminating bias as much as you can. So, for example, you ask your mom a question, it should never be a leading question to like a yes or no as much as you can. It has to be a question to expand their experience and how they do things. So let's say you want to create a cookbook, like an online cookbook. And you ask your mom, hey mom, do you like do you want your cookbook? Like, do you read your cookbook? Like, what if I make a cookbook? Would you read it? If you ask your mom, if you make a cookbook, would they read it? She read it, they would likely say yes. But if you ask your mom, hey mom, when was the last time you used a cookbook? And when you make recipes, how do you make, what do you like, what do you do? And it's most likely that moms, especially like 40 years and older, will actually not check a cookbook. They would rather, it's either they already know the recipe or they have a family recipe they always use, which makes it Sharon, which makes it a good way to gauge it, because then when your mom says, oh yeah, I actually just use this cookbook I never search online, it already validates or not validate the idea that cookbook is where people go to when they want recipes. With mom's answer, she just validates that, hey, I don't really use a cookbook, I just know things. And this is the way we should approach things. Another example would be when, let's say, a personal experience, I want to validate whether plant-based milk is a solution. I ask people, hey, what do you do for how do you use your milk? Are you lactose intolerant? And what do you do about your lactose intolerance? So let's say they say, yes, they're lactose intolerant. So I ask, like, what do they do about it? If they say like, I just don't consume dairy and I just don't consume dairy at all, then that's one way they solve their solution. But if they also say, oh yeah, I stopped drinking dairy, I consume plant-based milk, that also gives an idea that, let's say 50 or 30% of people actually can't stop drinking dairy or dairy alternatives. So there's that behavioral aspect to it. So what, like another question would be, what makes you consume plant-based milk? Why do you consume plant-based milk? It's the most common answer would be, oh, because I like the taste, or like because it's still a good alternative. So there you already gauge what people do to solve their problems. The wrong question would be like, hey, are you lactose intolerant? They say yes. And then the wrong leading question, or the wrong question would be, do you like oat milk or do you like coconut milk? We can't jump to that because that question gives the person an idea of what you are on about already. Like, oh, okay, I know this about plant-based milk, etc., etc. But if you don't mention plant-based milk, they wouldn't go to that answer immediately. You would likely get an answer of like, yeah, I don't really consume dairy, etc., etc. Chloe, oh my God, Chloe and Jerron, you guys are nice. Anyway, so that is basically my journey. I think we can proceed with the Q&A. I can stop sharing now. If you have any questions with my journey, and etc. Yeah, Sharon, or James, okay. How do I continue with this? Do I just ask people for questions? Maybe you can ask on the chat, and maybe you can ask on directly.
Oh no. I sent like a Slido in the Zoom chat, and there are some people asking questions. I'll just recite them, and you can
Sure.
answer. So
Sure.
yeah, I guess one of the questions. So from our project head, actually, he said that you dropped book recommendations, and he's a nerd, so he said this verbatim. I'm not calling him a nerd. He would love to hear more book
Wait, sorry.
recommendations.
Sorry. Can you say that again? I didn't hear.
Oh, can you drop a book recommendation? Because
Oh,
um to hear more, yeah.
yeah, book recommendations. I'll put it in the chat. Number one is the mom test. Mom. These are all startup books. The Lean Startup. Oh my God, I sound so good. Um, The Art of Negotiation. Is this The Art of the Negotiation? Book. There's this book about negotiation written by a like a professional, how do you call it? Like, you know, when someone is taken as hostage, and then they're the one who like persuades them about
Uh,
how do you call that again?
conflict negotiator. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Conflict negotiator.
yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. So the book is about like negotiate. I need to find the book. Oh, Chris Voss. It's by Chris Voss. Oh, Never Split the Difference. Never Split the Difference.
Never.
You probably heard of this. It talks about negotiation. Never Split. And the guy actually worked in the Philippines. He was a Harvard graduate. Um, those ones are nice in terms of startup. In terms of understanding the world, read Homo sapiens and Homo Deus. I think it gives like an introduction to how the world works. If you want, um, oh, I was writing it as well. Oh shit, I wrote it directly to James. Pardon mon français. Sorry, Homo Deus and Homo sapiens. Um, if you just want to understand how you think for like well-being, Chatter is a good one as well. Really, really good book, scientific. It's like a scientific version of Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, or that book. That book was kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Um,
Agree.
yeah, but Chatter is more, it's scientific. It talks about how the brain works and how we work. Yeah, that's good. Harvard professor as well. Oh, the book by Steve Schwartzman. Is it Steve Schwartzman? Sorry, give me a sec. Steve Schwartzman, the founder of Blackstone or Blackstone. Steve Schwartzman. It's called What It Takes by Steve Schwartzman. This book is really good. This is less startup-y, but more business. He basically talks about his life journey, but at the same time, he built Blackstone. He built Blackstone to the colossal company that it is right now. They're the owners of the Hamlet, like all the big hotel chains. They're the one who started one of the private equity revolution. Yeah, so far those are the main ones that I think is very interesting. Steve Schwartzman gives you an idea of how a self-made person thinks. If you know the Schwartzman Scholarship, he is the head of that, and he's one of the reasons why China is one of the best uh Peking University is one of the best universities in the world right now. Pretty good book. But yeah, those are, I yap a lot, but those are the good ones.
Yeah, thank you so much for your recommendations. Actually, still have a few more. So there's a lot of questions. So, I guess one question is if there is no available reliable data about the field that they're trying to get into, what are alternative options to validate their idea?
Cool. You do it yourself. The number one, so when I validated my data, I did my interview and surveys with people. So I do all the outreach myself. When you do validation, you will likely not have data. The only way you can, so there's like primary validation, which is like asking people about their problems, what the solutions they do. You can do secondary validation through research. So, you know, the dairy emissions, dairy emissions, water consumption, lactose intolerance. Those are secondary data. Those are something you can Google. But what people do, how people solve their problems can only be done through personal experience or personal questioning. For one, different people will operate and behave differently. An 18-year-old student in the UK will have a different lifestyle as an 18-year-old student in the Philippines. And I know this for a fact. You know, like demographics wise, socioeconomic status wise, behavior wise, people in the Philippines likely live with their parents at 18. You know, it's unlikely that they live in dorms. If you study in London, you're likely not going to live with your parents. You know, spending habits will be completely different. Socioeconomic status are completely different. Someone who likes F1 will have different preference than someone who likes Barbie. That's just, I mean, they can have the same preference, but it's unlikely that they have the same preference. A plant-based meal, a vegan will have a different diet as like a hardcore meat consumer. If you want to gather data, you have to gather it yourself. One of the best way to gauge whether a startup founder is good is if they know how to navigate gathering their own data. And this is not only applicable for startup founders, this will also be applicable to any person in the world. I feel like someone who can ask the right questions are just like way more fun to be around because you know that they're likely objective with the way they think.
Yeah, that's true. I think like one of the like knowing your customer is also asking the right questions, just as we said
Exactly.
earlier. Of course, no leading questions. So I think there's like a related question to this. So when it comes to like, finding your consumer base, so how do you go about deciding picking a problem with a more general or bigger market versus a smaller size or niche problem?
Don't be afraid to go niche. Niche, niche is most of the time niche is how a lot of startups work. You know, as YC will always tell you, a consistent 100 customers are better, or like, yeah, are better than like 1,000 customers that would buy once. You know, you have to build your market. Let me give you an example. Have you guys heard of Gymshark? It's it's like a sports apparel brand. You know, they started with like making really good clothes for like athleisure clothes for people who go to the gym, people who work out. You know, it's very niche. Like, who goes to the gym? Like, you know, this started like probably 10 years ago, 5 years, 10 years ago, probably. So they built their community around that. They're a billion-dollar company now. You know, like, start with your niche. Like, let me give you another example. Justin TV, Twitch, as we know right now. They started by providing platform for people who want to stream. You know, it has been so niche. But like, look at how it grew now. In terms of consumer product, niche consumer product. What's a very niche consumer product? Huh. Let's say, oh yeah. Oh, I was about to say Skims, but Kardashians are big. Give me an example, actually, a niche product.
I don't think it's niche, but wait. Oh yeah. Okay. I don't think it's niche, but Slack. I think they also pivoted from like a gaming thing to like the communication channels right now.
Yeah, yeah, yes, exactly. But here's the thing. Niche is good. Build that community. And then see how it goes. I think the number one thing you should be asking yourself is, will this ultimately be limited to this niche market? You know, will this always stay here? It's fine. You know, I think the number one thing startups founder, especially in this age, should think about is not that you're the next billion-dollar like unicorn. It's fine if you're building $100 million startup. It's fine if you're building a $50 million startup. It's fine if you build a 500 million startups. Remember, like, these aspirations we have of like being unicorns, like, is like 0.00001%. And the unspoken rule about the people who make this like achievement are, these people are surrounded by so much network. You know, these people, like, we often forget that network is so important. Amazon, for example, or let's say Airbnb, for example, they weren't the first like Airbnb portal. They weren't the first. They were just persistent, but also, you know, they were so good at navigating the problem and finding solutions to it. But it's a pitfall as a founder to think that you're the next billion-dollar company. Even I don't think we're the next billion-dollar company, but we are solving a billion-dollar problem. There's that as well. You know, you have to gauge, is this problem big enough? For us, I wouldn't do this problem if the problem wasn't a billion-dollar problem. And when I say $1 billion, so like the dairy industry in the Philippines is at 1.5 billion US dollar, and that's the Philippines alone. I'm not saying I'll be like taking 70% of that market. What I'm saying is the problem is big enough that new entrants will have an opportunity to take a pie out of that. And what makes me confident is because there's really no innovation in the dairy industry. Like, the dairy industry's innovation has been like, you know, 1950s. It's never really become better. You know, it's still the same product. Yeah, sorry. to answer that niche thing, don't be afraid to go niche. Look at the market. Is it big enough? Is it a real problem? And then gauge it from there. And also always take my advice like with the, how do you call it? What's the term? Like with a pin of a needle or whatever? What's the term? Like
Grain of salt. I think it's
a
grain of
grain of
salt.
salt. What the hell? Grain of salt.
Yeah.
Always take my advice as a like with a grain of salt because every situation will have a different solution. A consumer product will never have the same or will likely not have the same set of problems as a tech startup and vice versa. Anyway, Sarah.
Yeah, I think we have one more. We have time for like one last question. It's like James.
Sure.
All right. So for the last question, what metrics did you use to measure the success of your validation efforts?
Sure. So metrics. So first, you have to make sure that the metrics are as unbiased as possible. So going back to not doing leading questions, that was one of success. Also, when I did my validation questioning, I consulted my professors, I consulted some friends I have. Note that your startup journey is not like you're not an island, like you should use your resources and network to ask things. But anyway, I made sure like the way I questioned was bias proof, or at least limits as much bias as I can. Second, since it's validation, you should never have a specific answer in mind. Let the solution be formed from that validation. Never jump to solution. Focus on the problem and the feedback, and then formulate a solution from that. Yes, I think one metric, just not to be disappointed, would be that. What else? I made sure the data is coherent. So I took data from at least 100 participants. I narrowed it down to people from ages 16 to 36, I think. I basically made a focus group. What other metrics? Yeah, those are the ones I can think of. Is there any specific ones? Is there like a follow-up to that? Because I feel like that wasn't satisfactory. Because those are like the basic ones.
Yeah, they didn't really specify, so I feel like basic would be good.
Yeah, like, I mean, in university, I'm pretty sure you're taught how qualitative and quantitative data gathering works, right? Those are good metrics to start with because those are objective, it's very similar. Yeah.
Okay, so due to the
Mhm.
interest of time, we'll be wrapping up our Q&A.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys, for the time. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you learned something new. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Happy to ask a question, to answer your questions and inquiries. I'm working with Sharon and Chloe, who are both in this chat. If you want to know their experience working with us, ask them as well. And you guys have a good day and have a productive coaching session and mentoring session.
Yeah, no, actually, Sam, before you go, we have something to show you.
What?
Oh, Kurt, can you pull up the PowerPoint?
Oh,
Ta-da!
yay!
Zoom has this weird rule where they blur out things that might be copyrighted. Okay, there. Now it's fully shown. So yeah,
Thanks, Ron. I'll add this to my CV.
yeah, exactly. That's the best thing you've probably done. Yeah, so we just want to present the certificate of appreciation for, taking your time out today to impart your knowledge and all our participants and basically hold their hands as they're beginning their own startup journey. And yeah, it'd be great if you could take a photo.
Sure, of course.
So Kurt, just tell us when to post and yeah. All right, let's go. All right.
Is it good?
Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah, it's good.
Cool.
Okay, you got it. Nice. All right. So yeah, that's about it. Back to you guys.
Right. Thank you so much, guys. I still
Thank
haven't had my lunch, so
Oh my gosh, you should go eat your lunch and
I know.
dinner.
Yeah, I should eat your lunch.
All right. Bye.
Yeah, bye. Thanks for coming in.
Sure.
Yeah, so guys, I mean, that's talk number one, and I'll be giving it back to the host. They'll be introducing our next speaker. And yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and to Sam who already left. But we still have one more talk in store for you, and I hope you guys still have the energy. I hope you guys ate lunch, unlike the others here in this room. So for our next speaker, it's Owen Cuales. He's the CEO and co-founder of Superfaya, which helps you build marketplaces so you and your community can make a living around what you love to nerd about. So he was also a partner venture capital analyst for Oak Drive and formerly founded and ran 70 Ventures. So let's give it up for Owen Collis. Virtual clap.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Super thank you for the kind words and the introduction. Um, Super surprised that you guys also got to update what we're doing, right? Because the last time we talked, me and Sharon, we were doing something completely different, right? So thank you for that as well. But yeah, I'm Owen. I'm the CEO and founder of Superfaya. Right now, our website's under the works because we just pivoted and we're actually moving so fast. We don't have time to update the website right now, so it's just kind of blank at the moment, right? But yeah, my background is completely non-traditional. So probably a lot of you here are business students, tech people, but I come from neither. So my course was Pulsci, and I learned coding at night through a boot camp. And during the weekends, I'd take finance classes, and on Sundays, I would study for law school exams, right? Because I was Pulsci, I was aiming to be a lawyer, right? Um, but it ended up being fruitful. I'm now a full stack dev, data scientist, and a security specialist. I've also had experience in VC and equities, so that's really my background, right? So what Superfire is it was initially StockX for the Philippines, right? So sneaker marketplace where there's kind of like a stock market aspect into it. But now we've pivoted to just providing the infrastructure for content creators, right? Our goal is to build 100 marketplaces in 10 years. And right now we have 3 marketplaces that are currently running, right? Mm, So I guess to begin with, I just want to say that you're all very lucky. Back in my day, there was no support. Even worse for the older generations. Now there's just so much, right? You have ASES, a lot of different talks in different schools for building startups. But yeah, just generally super lucky in terms of like getting all the resources and all these learnings delivered straight to you, right? We're actually in a very unique time in our history called the Great Equalizer. So basically, what that is that every single thing you want to learn is well within your reach. So, for example, you want to learn coding. There's so much tools out there. You could learn. You could use no-code platforms. There's just so much resources, right? The downside is that every single person out there has the same access. So it's really just about like who wants it more, right? So essentially, you might come from like a business background, you might have like the tech skills already, but then there are people like me other people who are way more grindy than me working towards the same goal, right? So that's what you should be wary about, right? So just essentially people who really, really want it more. So after that, I just want to go through like the experience of like building a startup, right? So, but I can only really speak for myself. Um, if you read the book that Reid Hoffman wrote, he would detail building a startup as jumping off a cliff and then building a rocket on the way down, right? But it's actually more than that, right? When you're many people think that it's really just about like bravery, like, oh, I'm taking the leap, I'm gonna do this and do the contrarian view, and I think I can make it. Many people think that it's just that, it's just bravery, right? But it's actually more than that because when you're on the way down, there's so much debris out there, right? There's so much tools that are super incompatible with the rocket you're building that you just don't know how to fix them, right? So it's like you have this tool here, and then you're trying to build the rocket here, but then you don't know that that tool will actually make your rocket explode, right? So I guess what I'm essentially just trying to say is that there's really no blueprint for building a successful company because when you're jumping off that cliff and building the rocket, you're building like different rockets from everyone else, and no one knows like the situation you're in, right? So there's lots of ways in building like a very successful company. But again, there are ways to give you an edge. So I'm sure the ASES team have already mentioned it, right? But first of all, what you can do is validate, right? So what we did for our startup, right? Our initial startup was that we built a website. Well, I built a website. I coded everything myself. I think I coded it like just a 2 day sprint, right? And then I built a marketplace for sneakers and then just manually inputted the listings from Facebook groups, right? So, for example, for sneakers, there are a lot of Facebook groups out there specifically geared towards buying and selling sneakers. What I did was that I gathered all the listings into an Excel file and then uploaded them manually, right, to the website. Um, so what this essentially did for me was that it mm, allowed me to gain insight from the end users that first of all, there are a lot of people who want to sell their sneakers, and the number two, there are a lot of people who want to buy sneakers, right? What we were essentially just doing is putting it into one very clean website and allowing for easier transactions. So that's how we did. That's what we did to validate, and it turned out okay at first. But again, which also ties to the second point, right? Continuous test and pivot. Um, so the initial days of like building StockX for the Philippines, it was really good, right? We were getting like so much sales. In 2 weeks, we were able to do around $40,000 in GMV. Um, but it eventually plummeted, right? Not really, I mean, plummet's a pretty strong word, but um, it peaked, I guess would be a better word, right? So it peaked. We weren't like moving as fast anymore, and I guess we were trying to find out why, and it turns out we were just targeting the wrong first group of users, right? So when we launched the marketplace, we offered like a lot of deals, a lot of discounts, which gathered a lot of the wrong first users that you want for your startup. So it's mainly just people who wanted to get like really good deals from the sneakers, right? Not really like recurring buyers. It's more of like, oh, this is a good deal. I want to buy here. Yeah. So it wasn't scalable. It wasn't fruitful for us. So we had to pivot out there, right? So the second pivot we did was into reseller tools, right? Because essentially we were still targeting the same idea. We had all these learnings from our initial idea of StockX for the Philippines, but then it wasn't just the wrong group, right? It was also like the wrong product. So we still had all these insights of the sneaker industry. So we wanted to solve a problem within that space as well. So we did reseller tools, right? But then it turns out again, the infrastructure that we were giving these resellers was something that they actually didn't need, right? Resellers are very happy with how things already work, right? They don't need like another platform where they would increase their sales on, or like increase the effort of just selling their sneakers, right? So it wasn't a big need for them, right? So that's something you guys have to watch out for, is that if you're solving like a massive need for end users, if it's just something that um makes something like easier, like maybe like point 0.5 easier, it's not that big of a deal. They're probably not going to use it. So it has to be like magnitude times bigger, right? So now the pivot we did after that was the operating system for creator-led marketplaces, right? So what that essentially means is that we build marketplaces for content creators, right? And we have two unique insights from this, right? Number one is that um, creators are natural marketplaces, right? They have the power to leverage both supply and demand, and they just need the infrastructure. Number two, here's a very unique insight that I'll share with you guys, right? It's that surprisingly, creators are incredibly non-technical, right? Um, they can't even push ads. That's very first, right? So we have this one creator that we're currently building a marketplace for. They do around like $750,000 worth of transactions per month for just a single product, right? And they're like the biggest in their industry already. Um, but they did this all organically, and that's just so amazing, right? It's like they were able to do this without pushing a single ad, right? So what I'm trying to say there is that they can't even push an ad. So how would they be able to build a website themselves alone, right? Even if they're using something like Shopify, it's something that they couldn't really sustain, because what they just want to do is like build viral content, right? That's their main business, right? So yeah, basically, that's what you have to do: continuous test and pivot. You you can stick with your initial idea, your initial thesis of like solving something for that industry, but more often than not, or there's a good chance that the very first idea that you get isn't like the end product that you will be doing, right? So for us, we started with like StockX for the Philippines. We still have like a lot of their features right now, but now we just pivoted to essentially B2B, and we're just providing infrastructure for um, content creators, right? The next is building a product few users love, right? So for the first idea that we had, we just mainly focused on sneakers, right? Just laser focus on sneakers. We tried pivoting to something else, but that's an area that we actually don't have experience in, right? And so we actually talked to our investors as well. So we're backed by Founders Launchpad. We talked about building like a dress marketplace, right? Marketplace for women. Um, but they mentioned two big problems. First of all, we're not women, so we don't have any unique insight into this. And number two, the insights that we got from the sneakers doesn't really apply to dresses because they're completely different. The behaviors are different, the market's different, the products are very, very different, right? So essentially, what I'm trying to say is just focus on one small niche for now. And if you have, or if you're pitching to an investor later on, if they're really smart about it, they're gonna piece it together. Now you're gonna be able to expand into all of these, right? So, for example, for our initial idea, we started with sneakers, but immediately they were able to get that, look, this idea could expand into other products as well, right? And I guess to tie this na rin to what we're doing right now. So we're doing creator-led marketplaces. So we're just starting with like three niches for now, right? Um, but our new investors right now. So we just got new round of funding, very substantial amount. So our new investors were immediately able to get that this idea could really expand into every single niche out there. There are creators for every niche. There are creators that we could work with. In fact, one of our talks right now is building something in Cambodia because that's where they're strong in, right? So essentially, again, just to piece it together, if you're pitching to like really smart investors, they're gonna be able to piece it together. You don't have to blatantly say, na, "Oh, we're gonna expand into watches, collectibles, etc." Right? If they're smart investors, they're gonna get it. The next point is reach out. So essentially, the community aspect, right? No one builds a startup alone, and no one's ever really like quote unquote self-made, right? Um, the only self-made people are lottery winners, right? But other than that, there are no self-made people. And I wish I thought this. I was taught this like. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Give me a bit. Just fixing my headphones. Ran out of battery. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, when you're
Okay,
still
cool.
audible.
Okay, cool. But yeah. Where was I? Reaching out community. Okay. So I wish I was taught this like earlier on because I thought it was just me against the world. Like, I was just like you. I was like super young. I had like all this fire, all this passion, and I just wanted to prove myself, right? I thought I was like the best fucking founder out there. Like I was like the best. I could like beat every single one out there, right? And that's coming from me as well, like a VC background, because I've analyzed like over 500 startups, and like when I was like analyzing the founders, I was like, oh, you know what? I could do way more for way less, right? And I was just keeping everything to myself. Like I'm the game changer. I'm the one in the lead. I'm like Kobe Bryant, right? But that's not true, right? So the earlier you understand that it's a community slash team game, the earlier you become successful, right? So for you guys, ASES is a good start. You're very lucky to have these people guiding you. But what I'd recommend is going out of your comfort zone and really get to talking to experts in your area, right? So for us, one of the experts that we got to talk to in our area that was absolutely game changing is Justin. So I'm sure um Sharon knows him, but not sure if you guys got to meet him already. But Justin's like building a massive company right now, and the insights that we got from him is absolutely game changing, right? So if we hadn't talked to him, oh, yeah, yeah. So you're speaker this Saturday. Okay, great. Yeah. So look, basically, I'm gonna hype him up for this already. But basically, if we didn't get to talk to him beforehand, we wouldn't have this new fresh round of funding. We wouldn't be where we are today. We would be stuck doing like StockX for the Philippines and stuff. Um, yeah, essentially, talk to as much people as you can, right? Um, who knows, right? They might have like the missing piece for your startup. Um, don't also be worried of like other people like copying your idea. There's a good chance they're not gonna copy your idea, but if they do and if they absolutely like beat you, it's probably not defensible to begin with. Um, if you have a unique insight in that industry, you won't be targetable by these competitors, right? So even if they produce like a competing product, if you have like unique insights, they're not gonna be able to beat you. Caveat with reaching out, the community aspect, just be careful with mentors who might not be equipped with the right skill set to guide you, right? So again, don't take my word for it, but to give you an example, for example, maybe consultants, right? So big consultancy firms with like years of experience, like 20 years or right? Um, they might have like a ton of experience in that field, but it's completely different from building a startup, right? Um, they have like let's say the experience like building taking companies from 1 to 10, right? But building something from 0 to 1 is a completely different field, right? You as a founder, you have to do so much stuff, right? And that's something I would say not a lot of people are fully equipped with, right? Um, just to tie here as well. So for example, right, we have our weekly calls with Founders Launchpad, right? And to be perfectly honest with you, we don't know like everything about our field yet, still, right? And sometimes like Founders Launchpad doesn't even also know a lot about their field or our field as well, right? So more often than not, we'd sit there, we'd have like our brainstorming sessions, and then we'd find a way to like attack the market within that week, right? So every single week we're launching like different things, different approaches, and essentially like different campaigns right now. So our our position right now is scaling. So what we're doing is like launching different campaigns. So yeah, just be careful with who you approach because they might not be fully equipped, right? Um, let's see. Other tips. Honestly, just follow what you really love, right? There's so much niches out there that's ready to be disrupted, and I'm more than certain that every single one of you has like a unique insight in a niche that you really, really love, right? You just have to piece it together. So, for example, let's say you love gaming, right? Um, maybe there's something there that other people can't see, like we can't see, but you do because you have that problem, right? So, I guess that's one advice that I would give is that do something that you really, really love. Another advice would be to listen, but be curious, right? So don't take anything we say to heart. Um, for example, even someone as experienced as like let's say Justin, right? Um, we haven't like fully figured out everything, right? He's an expert in his industry, creator economy. He's an expert in that already, right? But maybe that doesn't really apply to the industry that you're in, right? Maybe we're an expert in like sneakers, but any advice that I give is really only just applicable to building sneaker marketplaces, right? There's no one path, and you're the experts in your field. So, here's my contrarian opinion: don't listen to anyone, right? Just do your thing. I think you're gonna figure it out. And lastly, I think you should just launch, right? A lot of people would do like a lot of things, but make sure like the website's fully built, make sure they have this, make sure they have that. But honestly, just launch it, right? You could build a website in like 2 days. You could do less. Well, there's a lot of ways right now I'm thinking of, but you could do way less for little time, right? So essentially, for example, like I don't know, do surveys, right? But surveys aren't really that strong. Um, I would say just do something that would allow the end users um, to give you their feedback without much bias, right? So if you launch like let's say a marketplace and then just push like a few hundred pesos in ads, that's something that they're completely not biased about, right? So they just saw it, they found it interesting, they clicked it, and now they're interested in buying, right? So that's completely unbiased, right? Um, yeah, I guess just launch. So that's it. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Owen, for all of your insights. Really learned a lot. I feel like all of
Sure.
our participants here also learned a lot from you. I think actually some of them were really curious about your background since you mentioned that you're like from a non-business, like from a non-traditional background of startup. So
Right.
I have like one question here. It says, since you're from a non-technical background, would you recommend aspiring student founders to learn code from scratch, same like you did, or to find like a co-founder, if you have one right now, like a CTO, that has a technical background?
Look, um, honestly, what I would say is literally just do it yourself, right? Um, the odds are very, very low when you're trying to find like a really good co-founder, because more often than not, like really good ones out there, the technical, like really good ones, they're already set out to build their own, right? So you're just like left with yourself. There's no one else to like support you with your idea. I would say maybe try to find like a good tech co-founder. But if like if all goes wrong, right, you can't find like a tech co-founder, just do it yourself, right? No one else is gonna want it as much as you. So I guess just learn it yourself. I mean, honestly, like coding is actually like super, super easy. Especially web dev, right? Don't go into like um other coding paths, like data science, completely different field. Web dev is very, very easy because it's something that you can virtually see. Like it's something that you can change talaga, like in an instant. So I'd say learn coding. Because honestly, there are no downsides. If anything, that would make you like a really good tech founder as well. Because it's something that you can actually dedicate to your team. Um, so you guys, are you all from DLSU?
Oh no, we're from a mix of different universities.
Oh, okay. Okay. But yeah, essentially, if you're like in a university, like a coding bootcamp is only like what, 50,000 pesos. I would take that investment and like invest in myself. Like it's really, really good. You could use it for years to come. So I would say just code.
Nice, thank you so much. So I think there's another question as well. So someone asked, how does law school help you as a startup founder? Is it worth it, and what aspect of law is conductive to the startup
Oh
career?
my. Oh man. Okay. Here's the thing, right? So when I set out to build my first startup, I also got in Ateneo Law, right? And here's my experience. So when I was in Ateneo Law, I was literally studying for 20 hours a day. Like literally. I was reading cases, reading the codos, reading the books as well. I would spend 20 hours just to survive the next day of recitations, right? So what I would do is I would sleep at like 4 a.m., open the blinds, and then turn the aircon off just so that when the sun is up, um, it would get so hot already, and I'm like forced to wake up. Um, but yeah, I would only sleep for 4 hours. It took like a heavy toll on my health. I developed like grinding, teeth grinding. It's so bad. Um, but what essentially caused me to stop, right, is the idea that I was spending like 20 hours into doing law school, right? If I put that amount of effort into something else, I would go way farther. And so that's what I did. I put that effort into like programming, into like building my own startup. And I would say it was incredibly helpful for me, just going through that law school experience because gave me the ability to be more resilient, to be able to survive like let's say 20 hours of like a coding sprint. Um, I was also able to, I guess, my mental strength also strengthened because honestly, like the profs in law school, they're not gonna baby you. They're gonna talk shit to your face, and you're just gonna have to take it. So, I guess the way I think right now is that, I've been through worse. Literally nothing can hurt me anymore. Like, I don't care what anyone says right now. We're just doing our thing. Um, yeah, I would say it's overall helpful for me, but again, not applicable to everyone.
All right, Owen, thank you for that question. So yeah, maybe some of you guys are interested in going to law school as well because of that. And yeah, we'll be having our next question. Hi Owen, thank you for your talk. I asked this last week and would love to ask you this again. What was your why going full time as a startup builder?
Oh wow. Oh wow. Okay. Interesting. So I would answer it in like two parts, right? So my very first why was that um I got to read 0 to 1, and that changed my perspective into everything, right? So if you're completely new to startups, I would recommend reading 0 to 1. It's a very good book and completely changed my perspective into reading. Ever since then, I loved reading. I will always read, but before that, I didn't. It's just a really, really good book. Um, I guess the why there was that I wanted to build like uh, a big company. I wanted to be like the game changer. I wanted to be part of like um, the very, very few who actually make a difference. It was bolstered by the thought when I was in VC, that yun nga, right? I was like running through like hundreds of startup pitches, and it was just that arrogance. I wouldn't say like arrogance, but like passion, like fire. The thought that like um, you know what? If I had like a little less funding than all of these guys, I would do a way better job than any of them, right? So it might be bad, but again, that's just me. But that really fueled me for the initial part, but immediately got shit on. It was a bad way to start. But now I guess what I want to do is build a really massive company, right? Could be different for everyone, right? But for me, I want to build a $1 billion company.
Yeah, I feel like, a lot of founders' goals is becoming a unicorn. So I think there's also like a related question-ish, like relating to your startup. Since you mentioned, how did you realize it was time to pivot and validate like a new angle? You mentioned you pivoted like twice. I think our participants are curious about.
Oh, oh, that's a good one, right? So startups, um, I guess I would differentiate, right? There are a lot of different startups, but for a tech startup, you're heavily driven by momentum, right? So VCs would look at your startup based on how much you were able to do in a short amount of time, right? So this is just like the under the table things, right? But then momentum is a massive, massive factor when VCs look at your startup, right? Um, so what happened with ours was that we just lost momentum. We weren't doing as much already. We're still doing like ₱1 million per month, but then that's not you're not a venture fundable company at that stage, right? Um, we lost the momentum. We couldn't get like more buyers without pushing more ads because um, well, at that time we didn't have like enough funding, right? We raised a good amount already, but then it wasn't enough to really sustain us for like 5 years, 10 years. We could live out for like 3 years, but 5 years, 10 years, we wouldn't survive, right? So at that point, we just called it cut our losses and then pivot into something else. So it's actually like a very hard position to be in, hard position to take as well. Mainly because like you start with this idea, this is your baby, right? You fully believe in this idea. You're not gonna trust anyone else. But then when the data is looking at you straight in the face, like, hey, it's really time to change, then you have to believe it already, right? So just look at the numbers. You'd know it yourself, especially if you've been building this for like years already or like months. If you've spent so much time into this, you'd know deep inside, deep down, when it's time to pivot, right? Um, but I would also caveat into what's called like pivotitis. So um, FL's been really good to us about this, right? So a lot of new startup founders would often like immediately pivot at the face of like challenges, right? But I think you should do a deeper dive before actually considering a pivot. So don't pivot immediately. Make 100% certain that there's no other way, and then do a pivot afterwards. So be careful of pivotitis. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Owen. I think we have time for one last question. So I think James should can ask the question.
Oh, all right. Um, so yeah, so for the last question, how do you apply your passion for the gaming industry and moving forward in your startup journey?
Oh, gaming industry? No, no, no.
That was
I guess I'm just
that
trying to
was the
clarify.
question.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Super interesting. So I'm just like you guys, right? I'm very, very. I would say I'm kind of young as well, but I'm actually pushing 30. I'm like 26. Um, I guess gaming's been like a massive part of my life. If you guys play League of Legends, I was like top 7 at one point in the Philippines. Um, I would say I was pretty good at it. Um, but what I took away from gaming was that um, I really liked winning, and I just wanted to win in other ways, and just wanted to prove everyone what I could do. But that's actually a bad thing to take from gaming, right? Because in gaming, it's like something that you can immediately affect, right? So if like you're really good at like a certain hero, certain champ, you can directly affect the game. But being a startup is not that way, right? So you have to rely on other people, talk to other startup founders, talk to other experts. It's not like a one person thing that like Faker maybe, right? Or like tens. Like you can't like solo the entire game, solo carry the entire game. You have to find other people to help you build this, right? Um, but yeah, I guess that's what I took from gaming. Sorry. Just wanted to answer this direct question. So I was sent a direct message, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, would you say that you would still recommend being a lawyer as alongside being an entrepreneur? That's a very good question. I would say honestly, it depends on your bandwidth, right? Your mental bandwidth, right? There are a few good law schools out there that support being being part-time. Um, but you already probably know what they say about law school, right? Law school is a very jealous. The law is a very jealous mistress. So um, it's something that you really can't do alongside something else. But honestly, it's up to you. I know a lot of like really good lawyers who did it as a part time. In fact, um, you should do a research on. So I think Justin's related to him, but Mark Gorsetta, um, one of like the managing partners of the biggest like tech law firm in the Philippines, did it part time. So I don't know, maybe you guys could do it too, right? Um, I wouldn't recommend it for everyone, but you'd know it yourself, if you can, right? So yeah, up to you, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so
Okay. Thank you so much, Owen.
so yeah,
I
so
think
that's it. So yeah, so that's the end of our Q&A. Thank you, Owen, for your talk and the knowledge that you imparted on us. And to show our appreciation, we'd like to present to you a certificate of appreciation. So yeah,
Thank you.
before we let you go, we'd like to have a quick photo with you. Okay, I think that's good. So yeah, thank you again for that amazing talk.
But yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. My socials, I don't have social media. I only have Messenger. But you can reach out via LinkedIn or owen@superfire.com. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
We'll send your contacts to the team, to the participants later. They want to contact you for advice. So
Yes.
I guess we'll now be segmenting you into breakout rooms so you can ideate more about your ideas with the mentors your mentors. So yeah, breakout session and our facilitators will help facilitate you. For that, you guys are now assigned. You can check more and then check the breakout rooms to see which room you are, and then you can now join. But of course, if you have any questions, you can stay in the main room and we'll entertain the questions for you.
Yeah, so yeah, do join the breakout room, guys. We'll be sending on mentors to each room one by one, but while they're not there, ideate, you know. And yeah, maybe we can manually assign the few that haven't moved yet. Oh, Kurt, I think some participants are having a bit of a difficulty in accessing the breakout rooms.
All right, give me a sec.
Thanks. I asked for the mentors that are here right now. So basically, once we have all the participants in the breakout room, uh, what the concept we have is in mind is you guys will do breakout room hopping. So feel free to jump in each breakout room, maybe for like, 3 to 5 minutes, just talk to them, the current ideas they have, um, if they need any assistance with anything. We'll give you guys a go signal though. Let's get everyone in the breakout rooms first. But yeah, that's just like a quick briefer. Yeah, I think almost all participants are in the breakout rooms. Is there any participant here that's unable to join a breakout room? Do say so in the chat. No, I think we're okay. Yeah. So far the mentors we have right now are Owen, Chloe, and Jason. So hey, thanks for being here, guys. There will be a few that messaged they're coming late, so they'll be coming in as well. So like I mentioned earlier, we'll be doing breakout room hopping. Hopefully it's more fun than cave hopping, but it's startups this time instead of dark enclosures. So yeah, just feel free to join a room. And if you guys actually end up in the same room, just transfer to another and just I'm imagining 3 to 5 minutes each room, just talk to them, hear their ideas, help them out, help them ideate. If they have any questions, when you do enter the room, just do quickly introduce yourself and like, what's your strengths, like whether it's strategy, design, product development, so forth. And yeah, that's it. It's just very casual. We just want to make it as chill as possible. Yeah, that's it. If you guys have questions, just come to the main room. Core team will be here.
Will you transfer us, or do we
Oh
do
no,
this?
feel free to hop yourselves. Yeah. So there's 10 of them, and right now we have 3 mentors. 2 more will be joining in a bit late. But just feel free to hop in between rooms and just give advice to like as many groups as you want to. Just like 3 to 5 minutes, talk to them if they have any ideas, help them build upon it, and yeah, that's it.
Okay. How do we do that?
Is
I
there
don't
no
think we have
breakout?
access.
Oh, Kurt, is there option to join breakout rooms there for them?
I'm trying, but wait.
If not, we could manually assign them and transfer them every like 3 5 minutes. If
Yeah, I think transfer us now.
okay, let's
Yeah,
do
like
that.
participants are allowed to choose their own room.
Okay, yeah, you guys
Can
should be
you join
allowed to
room 5 if you're there? Yeah, I'm trying to move Lance to room 5, but apparently I can't. Yeah.
Wait, how is the breakout room thing working? Because Zoom changed their layout for some reason. It's a bit trippy.
I don't think
Yeah,
Lance is here. That's why we can't move him. Like he has to accept the pop.
Yeah, I think he's inactive probably. It's fine.
probably
Um,
AFK.
oh, sorry, the breakout rooms is in the more button. If you guys press more, sorry, Zoom changed their layout. Like we got surprised as well this earlier, so we started late. If you guys press more, you can see the breakout rooms. And yeah, Jason's already in room 1. So just feel free to join a room, Owen and Chloe.
Wait, I don't have that.
Oh, you don't have that. Interesting.
Yeah.
I could assign you to a room. I have the option. I'll assign you.
Yeah, just transfer me, I guess.
Okay, perfect. I'll assign you to a room. You just come like back when you're done with like talking to the team. All right, perfect. Oh, there. Okay, nice. Okay, Chloe, is Chloe in the room? Yeah, she's in a room. Loki, I can uh I'll bump the
You want to
mentors.
assign Kyle? You want to assign Kyle to a room?
Kyle, sorry man, you're not qualified yet. Give it like 4 years or 3 years. Actually, you're a fast track kid, low key. Maybe 2 years. Mm, I could join some rooms, but honestly, like I don't think I'm that qualified. Where's the
Bro, you're
mentors?
gonna mislead them. With, oh shit, it's still recording.
I can pause the recording right now. Then we can continue the closing remarks.
Okay, yeah,
Pause
G.
Hi, sorry. I think I got transferred out.
Oh. Okay, yeah. So you guys are being sent back to the main room because we'll be ending the session. I hope you guys got to talk with the mentors and ideate your ideas. I was jumping room to room. I got to hear it firsthand. It was really awesome. Um, so if I'm sure you guys must be having more questions, we will be creating a mentor database so you can reach out to the mentors via email if you have any more questions, want to follow up, if you have any progressions in your ideas. And yeah, that's basically it we wanted to do for the first day. We wanted to give you guys a good idea of, what it really takes to. Oh yeah, bye Jason. Thanks for stopping by. We just really wanted to give you guys an idea on what it takes to start up. As Sam said, you really have to identify a problem. It's better if a problem you experience firsthand because you know about it. And once you identify your problem, you have to actually go on the journey. And Sam touched some of that. Owen touched more on it. Owen mentioned like how there's gonna be pivots on the way. You have to talk to customers, find mentors, and just it's overall a fun but challenging journey. And I really hope the next 2 weeks will be super, super exciting for you guys. And yeah, that's about it. Enrica, you do have a question. Let me answer that before we officially end. Okay, so that's up to you guys, depending how complicated your product is. If you just want to show a proof of concept, you could do something as simple as the front end. But of course, if you're building something a bit more complicated and it's always better to show a fully done product, then you can also build the back end side of things. So that comes down to you guys. So yeah, does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah, thanks for the feedback. I appreciate that. So yeah, I mean, that's about it. We're going to call it close to session. But before we do, it'd be nice to have a photo off. Most did leave, unfortunately. But still, uh photo op, guys. Let's do it. If everybody could open their camera and Kurt, if you could remove me from spotlight and take the photos.
Come on, guys, open your cams. Come on, guys, last chance to open your cams. All right, so I will be taking the photo on 3, 2, 1. All right, I got the photo, guys.
All right, thanks, guy. Thanks, Kurt. Yeah, that's about it, guys. Thanks for stopping by. See you guys this Friday. More amazing things planned. Do make sure you're part of the ASES Manila ABCD Facebook group and Messenger GC. All the announcements will be coursed through there. And yeah, that's about it. Have a great rest of the night.